Today I'm going to give away a free t-shirt, ask and answer a question, bring you comics news, and reveal the books I bought this week. How y'all doing? I'm Victor, and you are watching a Comic Hero Show. Now kick that intro! This week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host Victor Nunnally, and I am the Comic Hero. This month is Oral Cancer Awareness Month. Now, oral cancer, or mouth cancer as it's also called, refers to cancer that develops in any parts that make up the mouth. Now, mouth cancer can occur on the lips, gums, tongue, inner lining of the cheeks, the roof of the mouth, or the floor of the mouth, or under the tongue. Now, signs and symptoms of mouth cancer may include a lip or mouth sore that doesn't heal, a white or reddish patch inside of your mouth, loose teeth, a growth or lump inside your mouth pain, ear pain, and difficult and painful swallowing. Now this is an oral cancer awareness Comic Hero tee, and inside the speech bubble you have the pattern of mouths, and then here on the right, here on the left sleeve you have the oral cancer awareness ribbon, and here on the right sleeve you have the words "Watch Your Mouth." If you would like your very own, you can find them on my website, IamTheComicHero.com, for $17. Now, I personally know some folks that are battling oral cancer. I know some folks that have beaten oral cancer, and I know some folks that have lost their lives to oral cancer. And if you're watching this and you've either beaten it or battling it, or you're the family of someone that has lost their lives to oral cancer, this episode is for y'all. I tell you, it doesn't matter what kind of cancer it is. Cancer sucks. I mean, it really does. And when someone dies of cancer, you know, there just are no words. I mean, none whatsoever. And but I'm encouraging everyone that's battling oral cancer to fight. I'm celebrating everyone that has beaten oral cancer. And I'm showing some love to all the families of those that have passed on for oral cancer. This episode is definitely for y'all. All right, it's time to give away a free t-shirt. All right, on last week's episode, I asked, the Connor Kent Superboy was created with the combined DNA of Superman and which Superman villain? Well, the correct answer is Lex Luthor. And 11 people have answered correctly, and because they've answered correctly, the name's been entered in the drawing for a free tee. And that drawing takes place right now. So the winner of the free tee for this week's episode of the show is Amanda Rouse from Sibley, Louisiana. So congratulations, Amanda. You get yourself a free Comic Hero tee. All right, here's the question for next week's episode, and this is a Marvel question. Which rapper teamed up with the Punisher in a standalone Marvel comic book in 2009? All right, here are the hints. Now, the first hint, and this is kind of a dead giveaway, especially if you know a lot about this rapper. This comic book takes place in the rapper's hometown of Detroit. All right, if you're not going to get it off of that hint, you'll definitely get it off of this hint. Now, the second hint is this rapper is also known as Slim Shady. Now, I'm expecting everyone and their kids to be able to answer this question. So, everyone who answers correctly will be in a drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. So, I gotta ask, any questions?
Questions are often rhyming. Questions that didn't rhyme. Questions that will survive. Questions.
All right, I only have one question this week, and it's from Jacob Hart from Monroe, Louisiana. He asked, "Hey Vic, who is your personal favorite Green Lantern?" Oh my God, Jacob, you're gonna get me in trouble with folks. The reason I say that is because just like you can't eat just one Lay's potato chip, I can't just pick one Green Lantern. I mean, I like them all. Now, there are 6 Green Lanterns on Earth. Now, Green Lanterns, by the way, a Green Lantern is part of an intergalactic police force called the Green Lantern Corps. I mean, there just aren't Green Lanterns from Earth. They're from all over the solar system, all over the DC universe. I mean, from planets that we've never even heard of. And I don't know. I mean, just about every Green Lantern that's ever been from Earth has been my favorite. Now, in terms of leadership, I'd have to say the John Stewart Green Lantern. In terms of grit, I'd have to say Guy Gardner. In terms of creativity with creating ring constructs, I have to say Kyle Rayner. And in terms of just flat out getting the job done, Hal Jordan. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably have to say the Kyle Rayner Green Lantern. Now, here's why. Because if it weren't for Kyle Rayner, then the Green Lantern Corps wouldn't have been resurrected. You see, back in the early to mid 90s, the Hal Jordan Green Lantern, or the person that was Green Lantern before Kyle, he was infected with the parallax entity, and as a result, he ends up going mad and killing and or injuring the entire Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians of the Universe. The only person that he was unable to kill or injure was Ganthet, and that's probably like one of the main Guardians of the Universe. So Ganthet leaves Oa, he flees to Earth, and then he finds Kyle Rayner. And at this point, Kyle Rayner becomes the only Green Lantern. He trains really hard. I mean, he even moves from his hometown of Los Angeles to New York. And also, if it weren't for Kyle, now Kyle, here's the thing. Now, he was the only Green Lantern of Earth, and he was for almost a decade. But he knew that he always wanted to, after all the stories that he was told by Ganthet, he wanted to resurrect the Green Lantern Corps, start it back up. And that's exactly what he does in 2003. With the help of Ganthet, they return to Oa and they end up rebuilding things. And then eventually, John Stewart, after a terrible accident, ends up learning how to walk again. And then Guy Gardner ends up deciding to take up the mantle of Green Lantern again. And then Hal ends up coming back from the dead because he ends up dying while parallax, while he was parallax, and then at one point he was the Spectre. But then he comes back from the dead, and he's been back ever since. And so all of this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Kyle. I mean, it all goes back to Kyle. I mean, he's the youngest out of all of them, and he's also one of the most courageous and most creative out of all of them. So I definitely have to say Kyle. All right, I'm really loving this. I mean, these questions that y'all are asking me, and that I'm asking and answering, I mean, they're very good, and I really want y'all to keep them up. So if y'all have any questions that y'all want to ask me, go ahead and do so. Now remember, don't ask me personal questions. I will not ask nor answer them. All right, now it's time for Comically Speaking. So without further ado, let's talk comics! All right, there are two things we're going to talk about in this segment of Comically Speaking, and one is DC and the other is Marvel. Now, let me start with the DC. Now, I just read the 5th issue of Aquaman The Becoming. And let me tell you, this miniseries started out very good, but then the entire miniseries was good, but then it took a very drastic turn. It starts off with Arthur putting Jackson, of course, Jackson Hyde. He's about to become Aquaman, alongside, but not in place of Arthur, but beside Arthur. And by the way, for those of y'all who are unfamiliar with Jackson Hyde, He was actually created for the TV show Young Justice, but then DC liked him so much that after the first few episodes, they immediately brought him to the comics. And he made his debut in a limited series from DC called Brightest Day. Now, puts Jackson through, now Arthur puts Jackson through some trials, all of which that were going well. Now, the Zebellian authorities, now Mera, of course, Aquaman's wife, was under fire with Zebellian authorities. Of course, she's originally from Zebel, which is the underwater kingdom adjacent to Atlantis. And Jackson tries to help. But then along the way, the authorities were also after his mother, Lucia. Now, Lucia, we found out later that Lucia had been keeping a very dark secret from Jackson. And that secret is that Jackson has an older sister by the name of Delilah. Now, just like Jackson, neither one of them has anything to do with their birth father, which of course is Black Manta. Instead, Delilah was adopted by one of the soldiers from Zebel by the name of Ellic. And then years later, after she was adopted, there was a riot or a peaceful protest that became a riot in the greater part of the kingdom of Zebel, that is, and it resulted in a lot of the soldiers being killed, including Delilah's adopted father, Ellic. And at this point, Jackson is very angry about this. He is completely beside himself, and one, because he doesn't like for anyone to keep secrets from him, and two, that was a very horrible thing that his mother did by killing. And, I mean, he's a superhero. Superheroes don't always kill. And he says, I want nothing to do with y'all. But then he after going around Zebel for a few days, he changes his tune and starts hanging out with his sister Delilah. And then something happens outside of their quarters, and they find their mother severely injured. Well, after a few days, her mother Lucia ends up recovering from her injuries, and then they found out that the same resistance that did a peaceful protest that later became a riot were planning on attacking a conference in Zebel, and Mera was one of the keynote speakers. And the fifth issue ended with Jackson saying, well, Arthur may not be able to help, but Aquaman can. So that's where it ends up. And let me tell you, this miniseries is so good, and already, and it's a prelude to the current Aquaman series, which stars both Jackson and Arthur, that I haven't started because I want to read this miniseries first. But I honestly can't wait to read number 6, and I can't wait to get started on Aquaman. Now it's written. Now the miniseries is written by Brandon Thomas, who also co-writes the Aquaman Monthly. And sometimes, I mean, the way this is written, I don't know if this was written by him or Tyler Perry, because it's just that good. And I honestly can't wait to read more of this. So, if y'all have slept on Aquaman The Becoming, wake up. It's not too late to buy all 5 issues that are out and then wait for number 6. I honestly don't know when number 6 is coming out. It'll probably be next week or the week after that, but I'm definitely going to read. All right, now the second thing is I got caught up with I recently read the final issue of the Amazing Spider-Man. The now previous volume of Amazing Spider-Man. It ended with issue number 93. And to tell what's been happening as of late, Ben Reilly had decided to take it upon himself via the Beyond Corporation to become Spider-Man. And Peter at first is kind of upset about it, and then he says, okay, fine, but as long as I help out. Well, they end up going up against these guys, And Ben has he has a state-of-the-art suit where Peter just has his regular costume, and Peter ends up getting doused with radiation and he almost dies. And over time, Ben ends up fighting, and then he also has to go through counseling because we find out that a lot of his when he became, because he was a clone, but then he became full-blown human, and as a result, he started forgetting some of the memories that Peter shared with him. And Peter eventually recovers from his injuries, and he ends up being rehabbed in terms of being a superhero by both Captain America and the Black Cat. And in issue number 93, he tries to help Ben, but then Ben says, "Hey, I lost some of my memories. The only way I can get it back is if you put on this device and transfer some of your memories back." And Peter said, "No, that's not the way to do it." Peter thought that the only way to help him was word of mouth. Ben didn't want to hear that. Ben knocked him out and almost beat him to a pulp. But then Maxine Danger, who was over the Beyond Corporation, well, she finds out that she's about to be arrested. So instead, she ends up putting the entire building on meltdown, and these are these weird chemicals, and it's with these weird chemicals, and it causes the building to slowly collapse. I mean, not blow up, but I mean like collapse right through the ground. And Peter tries to plead for Ben to get out. Ben says no, and then everyone gets out except Ben. And at this point, Ben is presumed dead. But then later, his Ben's significant other Janine thinks differently, and then goes back to the remains of the Beyond Corporation building, and finds Ben unconscious. So she ends up bringing him back to his apartment. He wakes up, but then it's just weird. You know, the chemicals that were supposed to kill him ended up giving him new powers, and now he's the villain Chasm. And I have a feeling that in the upcoming volume of The Amazing Spider-Man, he's going to show up and he's going to get Peter all kinds of, holy sand. Correct term. I mean, the termination I wanted, or the terminology I want to use. But there were things I liked about this previous volume of The Amazing Spider-Man, things I didn't. One issue I didn't really like was J. Jonah Jameson inviting Peter to the Fact Channel, which Jameson now runs, and inviting him on his daily podcast. Now, at this point in the comics, Jameson knows that Peter and Spider-Man are the same, and you would think that he would try to oust them, but no, he is Team Spider-Man, and that's mainly because he didn't want to do anything to upset Aunt May. Of course, Aunt May and his late father were married to each other until his father passed. But I'm really looking forward to the new volume. It's going to be written by Zeb Wells with art by the great John Romita Jr., who actually is coming home. I mean, that man cut his teeth on The Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, that was one of the first books that he worked on back in the mid-'70s. And I honestly can't wait to read. Alright, that's it for Comically Speaking. Now let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
Alright, first up is Black Panther number 5. Flashpoint Beyond number 0. Green Lantern number 12. I Am Batman number 8. Miles Morales Spider-Man number 37. Naomi Season 2 number 2. Superman Son of Kal-El number 10. Venom number 7. What If Miles Morales number 2. Wonder Woman number 786. And finally, X-Men number 10. Alright, that's 11, which brings the total number of comics that I bought since December of 1997 to 11,293. Alright, well, I hope y'all enjoyed this week's episode. Here's a question again for a free tee for next week's episode of the show. Which rapper teamed up with the Punisher in a standalone Marvel comic book in 2009? Now, here are the hints again. This comic book takes place in the rapper's hometown of Detroit. And the second hint, this rapper is also known as Slim Shady. You ought to get that one. I'm expecting a lot of folks to answer. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. And congratulations to Amanda Rouse from Sibley, Louisiana, who won a free tee on this week's episode. Alright, here's the road ahead for the show. On next week's episode, I'm going to raise awareness of child abuse. Now, child abuse is, it's just no point in this at all. It's one of the most unreported crimes in the world, and I think that, you know, we owe it to our children to not physically or verbally harm them in any way. And then the week after that, the 400th episode of the Comic Hero Show. And boy, I am so excited about it. I have a t-shirt design. And if you follow me on Facebook and you follow my page on there called the Comic Hero Fan Forum, y'all be able to see it before anyone else. And then on episode 401, I'm going to raise awareness of brain cancer. And, brain cancer. The theme for that is Go Brain in May, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, this, in the first Saturday in May, which is probably right after, I want to say, right after I do episode 390. Well, no. It's after I do the 400th episode. I'm going to. This is Free Comic Book Day, which is on May 7th. And I'm going to celebrate that. I'm going to go out and pick up some books, and I'm going to do a special Comic Hero Show extra on that. So stay tuned. And if y'all have any suggestions or anything y'all think will make the show better, please let me know. I'll definitely take constructive criticism. And constructive criticism can be good. Now, if y'all are telling me that I should stop doing the show, or if you say anything very, very negative, I'm not going to listen to you. That's the only time. Those are the only suggestions that'll fall upon deaf ears with me. Because, we just need to learn how to be kind to each other. Straight up. And then also to everyone that's battling oral cancer, just keep on fighting. You will win. And to those that have beaten oral cancer, you're a living testimony. Don't ever forget that. Because you fought and you won. And then for those that have passed on, to the families of those that have passed on from oral cancer, my heart goes out to y'all. I mean, cancer sucks, and when someone dies of anything, much less cancer, there's just absolutely no words whatsoever. But again, my thoughts and prayers are with y'all. All right, I'm Victor Nunley on the Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for episode 399, the last of the 300s. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero, and watch your mouth.